I want to get your take on the other major investigation that you've been working on, and that is, of course, looking at the FBI and its handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation, as well as this Russia collusion story. Last week, we had one of your colleagues on the program, Chairman Bob Goodlatte of the Judiciary Committee, and here's what he said. Listen to this. Congressman, let's be clear. There are 1.2 million documents. You've only seen 3,000 of them. You've been stonewalled for 5 months.
We have seen some documents. We've seen more than we saw from the Obama Administration Justice Department, but we need more documents, and we need them now, and we need them unredacted, by the way, Maria.
If you keep getting stonewalled and you don't get these documents, are you going to subpoena these documents?
Well, the answer is yes.
Okay, Congressman, obviously we got the subpoena. It went out late last week. Bob Goodlatte broke the news on this program last Sunday. If you don't get those documents, then what?
So if I was Chairman Goodlatte, what I would do quickly, because I had to go through this for the last year, fighting Department of Justice and FBI for documents. I think the American people now know that they stonewalled for many, many months so that we could actually figure out that Fusion GPS was paid by the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign to collude and interact with Russians to get dirt on President Trump. That took us a long time to find out, and what I would recommend to my colleagues on the House Judiciary Committee, and I applaud Chairman Goodlatte for what he's doing, but don't wait. So when we get back in 2 weeks, if the 1.2 million documents aren't in the Capitol, then he should immediately move to hold Department of Justice and the FBI in contempt. And if we have to vote on contempt, then we should immediately move to impeach those officials. That would be using the full power of the Congress, but we can't wait. We've been listening for over a year and a half to the Democrats in this country scare the American people that they have evidence of collusion with Russians, which they don't. They can't prove it. They've been saying it. You have these investigations ongoing. You have FBI officials who have been fired. Congress is a separate branch of government. We created the Department of Justice, and the Congress needs those documents, and they need them now. They need them yesterday.
Well, you obviously, for all of those reasons, shut down, closed your investigation in potential collusion because you did not find any. But I want to go through the findings that you did come up with and report when you announced closing that investigation. What struck you most? Because I find it really incredible that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is not looking at the collusion that we know has existed between the Democrats and the Russians. Wouldn't that be under his purview?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that strike me. You asked me what strikes me most about the report that we released. Let me start there. What strikes me most is that we had 70 recommendations and findings, yet I think you might be the first person to actually cover our recommendations and findings, because all of the media that's essentially allied with the Democratic Party ignored. They went out there with this narrative that the House Republicans were never interested in doing an investigation. However, the opposite is true. We have 70 findings and recommendations. So what I would start with on that is that let's start with paper ballots. Perhaps in this country, we just talked about China. We know that the Russians are always up to no good. We better go back to using paper ballots in this country so that we have a way to check and double check that votes are accurate and all votes are counted. I think that's a major finding, a major recommendation in our report.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, Congressman.
We also found no collusion between the Trump campaign, but we did find links between the Clinton and Democratic Party to the Russians.
Let's go through those links. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Congressman Nunes, stay with us and walk us through some of those links. We will talk more about that. And then there's this coming up.
And when it comes to the dossier that was used by the Department of Justice to get a warrant against Carter Page, it was prepared by a paid informant of the Democratic Party, a foreign agent with ties to Russia. It is completely unverified, and it should never have been used as a basis for a FISA warrant. And I want a special counsel to look at all of this like Mueller's looking at Trump.
Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the several powerful Republican lawmakers, now calling for a second special counsel. How likely is it? Follow me on Twitter at Maria Bartiromo at Sunday Futures. More with Devin Nunes after this short break as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are back with California Congressman Devin Nunes, chairman of the Intel Committee. He is the chairman of the House Intel Committee that just voted to release the Republican majority's report on the Russia investigation, which found no evidence of collusion between the president and Russia. And Congressman, I was saying this earlier, if we know that the Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for the dossier, then the FBI used the dossier to get a warrant to wiretap the president's team, I mean, shouldn't that be under the group of things that the special counsel looks at, since his mandate, Robert Mueller's mandate, was to find collusion with the Russians? Can he ignore it?
Well, you would think so, but I have no faith in that process. You know, I supported the Mueller probe in the beginning, but I thought originally that they would get into the who did all the leaks, you know, who leaked the conversation between General Flynn and the Russian ambassador.
Which
and
was
in fact,
a felony,
that was
right?
one of the things that we found in our... Which was a felony. That hasn't been looked at. So this is not, to me, they're just looking at the Trump campaign. This is a further continuation of what the FBI was doing that started in midsummer 2016. It's a continuation of that. And look, there's no collusion. If they don't have any collusion, they ought to come out and say it. If they have some collusion, then they ought to come out and say it. But it seems to me like this is going nowhere fast. And in fact, let's remember too, one of the findings we had is there's an old law in the books that's 200 years old. It's never been used. It's called the Logan Act. This is the reason that they went after General Flynn, at least the reason that they described to Congress. So one of the findings we have in our report is, why do we have the Logan Act on the books when we know that it's selectively enforced? So you decided to use it against your political opponent, General Mike Flynn, who was the incoming national security advisor to President Trump. However, the Obama administration, who had people over in Moscow back in 2008 talking to the Russian government, which would clearly be a violation of the Logan Act, it wasn't enforced then. So this is an outdated law. It's never been used. It should be struck from the books so that political opponents can't use it against each other.
We are waiting on the IG report, the Inspector General. What should we expect from Michael Horowitz's report? It feels like ahead of that report, some key people are being reassigned or fired within the FBI as a result of what's coming.
Yeah, so, I mean, the main thing that we've learned so far is that the IG was able to get these text messages between Strzok and Page, and that's really illuminated a lot of the problems and biases that we were able to see in the Justice Department and the FBI's investigation. And so it will be interesting to see. This was only, remember, the IG report is only looking at how they handled the Clinton email investigation. So we really need that report. The sooner the better, because that information is really pertinent to the investigations that both the Judiciary Committee has going on and the Intelligence Committee, because we're still looking into FISA abuse and other matters. We still have a lot of witnesses to bring in from the State Department and from the FBI and DOJ to try to get to the bottom of, you know, was there a conspiracy to go after the Trump campaign? Did people purposely obstruct Congress's investigation? We still need to get those answers, and that's what we continue to look at.
And we'll continue to look for any new text messages that come out to illuminate further information for us. Congressman, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Maria.
We appreciate your time this morning, Congressman Devin Nunes. We just heard from Devin Nunes this morning, and we know that you and your colleagues in Judiciary, as well as Devin Nunes' committee, have been stonewalled for months and months. Obviously, Bob Goodlatte and your committee have now subpoenaed the documents in the Hillary Clinton investigation. What do you want to see? I mean, 1.2 million documents is what you've requested. You've only gotten 3,000 of them from the FBI.
Well, I want more information. I want to be able to prove that the FBI investigation of the Clinton email scandal was a sham, that the lead investigator, the lead FBI agent, hated Trump, supportive of Clinton. They whitewashed the email scandal. If you had done what she had done, you'd probably be in jail now. And to hold the FBI accountable for not doing their job correctly, that Comey, I think the fix was in. And when it comes to the dossier that was used by the Department of Justice to get a warrant against Carter Page, it was prepared by a paid informant of the Democratic Party, a foreign agent with ties to Russia. It is completely unverified. verified, and it should never have been used as a basis for a FISA warrant. And I want a special counsel to look at all of this like Mueller's looking at Trump.
Yeah, I mean, they used that dossier as a reason to get the warrant to wiretap, and they didn't tell the FISA judge that, in fact, the Democrats paid for it, that it was a political opponent paying for that dossier.
And here's the question. How much effort did the FBI put into verifying the dossier? I can tell you the answer, none. Steele had worked with the FBI in the past. They took the dossier for face value. They never did anything to verify it. And we can tell you now in March of 2018, it is still unverified. It is a bunch of political garbage fed to Steele by the Russians to embarrass the president. It was used to get a warrant, and every American should be concerned about how the FISA process was abused here.
You would think so. At this point, the Michael Horowitz IG report, we're waiting on the IG report.
Yeah.
What is it going to tell us?
I think it's going to tell us that the Department of Justice and the FBI ran a lot of stop signs when it comes to the FISA process, that the Clinton email investigation was unprofessionally handled. There was a bias, that the FBI got off track. The Department of Justice used information to get a warrant that was highly unreliable, and they need to reform their business practices. But he can't subpoena people outside the Department of Justice. He has no ability to prosecute people. And I really believe that Mr. Steele may have committed a crime here. He told a British court that he shared the dossier with the world press. He told the FBI he never shared the information with media outlets.
Right.
What I want to know is, did the FBI agents in question, who are outliers in terms of the FBI, did they come up with an insurance policy to help guarantee an outcome of an election? If that's true, if they were even thinking about doing that, that scares me as much as anything Russia's ever done.
Well, that is an incredible abuse of power. Do you think we're going to see any accountability here, Senator?
If we don't, it will be a terrible day for the system. The Department of Justice cannot investigate itself. Yep. You're going to have somebody come in with fresh view of this, has nobody to reward, nobody to punish. The Inspector General is limited institutionally as to what he can do, but I am really intent on having new eyes look at what happened in the Department of Justice and the FBI, because they can't investigate themselves.
So when will we know whether or not we're getting a second special counsel?
I can't believe it's taken this long.
Yeah.
Look what we know. We know that Steele lied about the role he played in handling the dossier. We know that the FBI agent in charge of the Clinton email investigation was a complete political hack. We know that information was whitewashed, and we know that Comey had made a decision to let her off long before he said he did. So there's a political bias here that needs to be looked at, and there's potential crimes. I'm not saying take Lindsey Graham's word for it. I'm saying pick somebody independent of the Department of Justice to do what we're doing in the Mueller case.